What happens if you're a person that needs to get from one side of a busy highway to another side? You probably go over a bridge or through an underpass. But what do you do if you're an animal? Hi there, everyone. I'm Jeff. JR is the producer, and you are listening to Plain English, the best way to upgrade your English with current events and trending topics. Coming up today, highways are a fast and convenient way for humans to get from place to place. But for animals, it's the opposite. Highways don't help animals get around. Actually, they stop animals from getting where they need to go. Engineering created this problem, and engineering has a solution, and that's what we'll be talking about on today's lesson. In the second half of the lesson, we'll be talking about the phrasal verb cut through, and JR has a song of the week. Let's get started. U.S. Highway 101 hugs the coast of the Pacific Ocean. It's one of the most beautiful roadways in all of North America. Car companies often film commercials showing their vehicles with stunning natural landscapes in the background. Road trippers make the drive from Southern California to Washington State, watching as their surroundings transition from palm trees to mountains to cliffs to forest. But Highway 101, like many highways around the world, has another legacy. It's harming the animal species in the area. Here's an example. The road cuts through the Santa Monica Mountains, which have long been home to mountain lions. The mountain lions that live in the area have no safe way to move about their natural habitat. The highway acts as a wall that prevents them from crossing from one area to another. As a result, a small population of mountain lions on one side of the highway is isolated from the larger population on the other side. This has caused the genetic diversity of the smaller population to fall. What does that mean? With a smaller population, there are fewer potential mates for each male and female mountain lion, and that means that they more often mate with close relatives. Researchers studying photos and autopsies of mountain lions have identified physical deformities that come from lower genetic diversity. Scientists fear that if nothing is done, the smaller population will die out. This example illustrates that highways around the world have unexpected impacts on animal species. The obvious impact, though, is collisions. In the U.S. alone, 1 million animals are killed on the roads each day. One study found that 12% of wild mammals in North America die on the roads, and many of those mammals are endangered. A Department of Transportation study identified 21 endangered or threatened species that are at high risk of roadway crashes. Other species don't stay in the same place all year round. Elk and deer, for example, migrate. But highways can impede their progress, trapping them in places they wouldn't naturally be. Other animals naturally move about the world as local conditions change. If a river dries up, if commercial development encroaches on their habitat, or if it's just getting too crowded, mammals move to more suitable locations, unless, of course, a highway stops them. There is a potential answer. I opened the lesson by asking, how does a person get from one side of a busy highway to another? And the answer is that we take an overpass or an underpass. An overpass is a bridge that goes over the road. An underpass is when the main road is the bridge and we go underneath. So that's how people can get around major highways. But guess what? It's possible for animals to do the same thing if only we build a path that tricks them into thinking it's not a bridge at all. The concept is called wildlife crossings, and they can be bridges, underpasses, tunnels, or trenches. And they're all designed to allow wildlife to safely cross from one side of a highway to another. Back on Highway 101, the state of California is planning the biggest wildlife crossing in America. When complete, it will be 200 feet long and it will cross 10 lanes of whizzing traffic. But this won't be an ordinary bridge. It will be designed specifically to encourage mountain lions and other critters to use it. There won't be any people, and that means the bridge will shield noise and light from the traffic below, and it will be specifically landscaped to look like the surrounding areas. The mountain lions won't even know that they're on a bridge. This is a proven concept. A pronghorn is a mammal that looks like a cross between a goat and an elk. They're native to the western part of North America. For 6,000 years, they have migrated from one part of Wyoming to another, about 170 miles in total. But highways have made that difficult. In recent years, the state of Wyoming has installed bridges specifically designed for pronghorn to cross major highways in the area. Fencing nearby also guides the pronghorn toward the bridges. 2 years after the crossings were built, the State Department of Transportation found a 70% reduction in crashes between vehicles and pronghorn on the highways. That shows the pronghorn have adapted to the new crossings. In other words, the animals know what to do. And if you're still not convinced, you can see video evidence from the motion-activated cameras installed to monitor the bridge's use. Money has been a major roadblock to constructing wildlife crossings. They cost millions of dollars each, but they also save money because each crash causes property damage and requires public services to clean up the highway. High-speed crashes also cause injuries to drivers. Studies from Wyoming and Arizona have found that the wildlife crossings pay for themselves in reduced costs after just a few years. The U.S. Congress allocated $350 million from a new infrastructure bill just for wildlife crossings. But the U.S. is slow to the game. We have only about 1,000 wildlife crossings in our whole vast country. The Netherlands, by comparison, has 600 crossings, and they only have 2% as much roadway as we do. The Dutch have built the world's longest wildlife crossing. It's half a mile long. The idea originated in France in the 1950s, and Europe is still the world leader in wildlife crossings. On Christmas Island in Australia, millions of red crabs migrate from the forests to the beach each year, and they stop traffic to allow the crabs to pass. But they've also built simple metal structures that crabs can climb to get up and over the cars passing below. This feels like something we should spend our money on. Now, set aside the fact that it's actually cost effective, since it saves so much money on crashes. We've gained so much from our roadways and railway networks. The least we can do is invest a little of that back in limiting the disruption to the natural habitat. And they look good, too, I must say. I saw aerial photos from the Netherlands, Germany, Belgium, Canada, and the US, and they all look good. They look like the earth has just kind of grown over the highway. I would cross it if I were an animal, but I wouldn't go anywhere near that crab bridge in Australia. That's scary looking. Today's English expression is cut through. You go directly through something when the alternative is to go around it. When you cut through, you go directly through something when you could have gone around it. So in today's lesson about wildlife crossings, I described U.S. Highway 101. I said that the highway cuts through the Santa Monica Mountains. Now, if you look at a map, you can see what I mean. There are two ways around this mountain range, along the coast or in the interior of California. And in fact, there are two roads that do just that. California Highway 1 goes along the coast, while Interstate 5 goes around the mountains to the interior. Not Highway 101. Highway 101 cuts through the mountains. It goes directly through the mountains when the alternative was to go around them. It's more common for us to use this when we describe the route we're personally taking to get from one place to another. In many cities here, we have major highways that go around the city center. Now, right around the time you listen to this, I'll be driving to Pittsburgh for the weekend. And on my way to Pittsburgh, I'll pass through the city of Indianapolis. As I approach Indianapolis, I'll have the choice to take the ring road around the city or cut through the city on I-70. Now, that will be my choice. I-70 is a shorter route, but there might be more traffic because it cuts through the city. I-70 cuts through the city because it goes directly through the city when the alternative is to go around it. Now, cut through is something we used to do a lot as kids. I grew up in a small town, and for 3 years, I lived just about a mile away from my school. Now, this was before high school, so I was, say, 11 to 13 years old when I went to this school. And in my town, it wasn't common to walk to school. The houses were just too far away. We had school buses to take us to school. But this school was only about a mile away, so I'd walk, often with my neighbor, to and from school when the weather was nice. All right. Along the way was a large field, just an empty expanse of land. If we walked along the road, we'd follow the field along one side, then turn 90 degrees left and follow the field along the other side. You know where this is going, right? This was just an empty field. There were no crops growing, nothing like that. So we often just cut through the field. We were good at math. We knew that the diagonal of a right triangle is less than the sum of the other two sides. We just cut through the field. We went directly through something. Now, in my town, there were a lot of winding roads and oddly shaped parcels and such. It wasn't the cookie cutter suburb that you sometimes see. So when you wanted to get from one house to another, it was often easier to just cut through someone's yard. So instead of taking the road, you just cut through someone's yard. You just walk through the yard. And believe me, we learned quickly which neighbors let us cut through their yards and which didn't. Today's song of the week is The Mighty Quinn by Manfred Mann. The song is about an Eskimo named Quinn who changes despair into joy and chaos into rest. It was written by Bob Dylan. So if you're looking for deeper meaning, he'll leave you disappointed. Bob Dylan said it was a simple nursery rhyme, but the song became a hit, both the Bob Dylan version and the Manfred Mann version. I didn't recognize the song when I saw JR's selection, but as soon as I played it, I realized I knew it. See if the same happens to you when you listen to The Mighty Quinn by Manfred Mann. By the way, if you're curious about what these songs sound like, we send a link to the song in Spotify to all free members of PlainEnglish.com. JR does it. He sends a lesson summary every Monday and Thursday, and the Thursday summary includes a link to the song in Spotify. So if you get those emails, watch for that link in today's email. If you don't get those emails, then just go to PlainEnglish.com and join as a free member. It's really easy to do, and it opens up a host of other benefits too. Have you seen the Netflix documentary, The Tinder Swindler? It was the #1 movie on Netflix for a short time. It's about a guy who scams women out of tens of thousands of dollars each, euros, and he does it all over Europe. I'm guessing that nobody in this audience fell victim to the Tinder Swindler because you listened to lesson 375, which was all about scams on dating apps. Listen to that one at PlainEnglish.com/375 if you missed it. And this is just more proof that you should stay with us if you want to learn about the most important things going on in the world and pick up a little English too while you're at it. Well, that's all for today's lesson. We'll be back next week with another one on Monday. See you then.